So I hope everyone's doing well today. This video is about some of the advanced tips, or really strategies, that I use when I play Phasmophobia. I'm calling this advanced just to distinguish this from a regular how to play the game video, because this is not how to play the game. This video is mostly targeted for players who've been playing for a while. Also, these strategies are mostly targeted at figuring out the ghost room and the ghost type very quickly. So it's not going to be cheats or hacks to get the crucifix objective or get $1 million on every run. So with that out of the way, let's get started. I have 7 strategies to present, but they're all kind of related to each other in some way, and they all are going to be used to substantiate the very last one. So here we go. Number 1, check the good security cameras to see if you can find ghost orbs before entering the building. Ghost orbs tell you the ghost room instantly and are a piece of evidence. Number 2, listen for sounds that give away the ghost room instantly. The ghost makes a lot of sounds, gives you a lot of clues as to where it is if you listen for it. We'll go over some of those sounds. Number 3 is you should know where the fingerprints can occur and then look for them after you get a particular sound cue. Number 4 is to stop using a flashlight and or a thermometer on small media maps, maybe even on Asylum. Number 5, look for objects that have been moved by the ghost. This is good to do after you hear the object thrown sound. That'll help you know where the ghost room is. Number 6 is to know how to read the graph to see if your ghost is EMF 5 without using a reader. It's tough, but you can still do it. And number 7 is the last one, which is use the process of elimination to quickly narrow down the ghost type. So most people know this, but I want to go over a few more things there. So let's get started. So let's start off with something pretty easy. Number 1, check the security cameras on medium and large maps for ghost orbs. I'm inclined to believe that the cameras on the medium maps are actually much better than the ones on Asylum. However, you absolutely can see ghost orbs in some of these places. Not all of the cameras on the medium maps point in terrible locations. These cameras still look like terrible. Oh, there it is. Just got a ghost orb. Alright, so we found the ghost orb. When we do this test, let's just make sure. Oh, ghost orbs. We can check the gym. Ghost orbs is right there.
Yo.
Oh my god.
Just barely.
The most important cameras on high school, I think, are the gym camera and the front entrance camera. I personally have never seen a hallway ghost on high school that had ghost orbs that could also be seen through the security cameras. So I'd like to see some evidence for that. However, I believe on prison you have a better arrangement of cameras. The most important cameras to check are the one that's just outside the warden's office, the entrance hallway, the cafeteria, cell blocks A and B, the hallway perpendicular to the entrance hallway, the upstairs hallway facing a bunch of lockers, and then the hallway looking at the door upstairs, the kind of door to the office upstairs. If you can identify ghost orbs without even entering the building first, that's an instant ghost room and an instant piece of evidence. Now, another way you can use the security cameras to check for ghost orbs is, imagine the following situation. You found the ghost room, and the ghost room happens to be in view of one of the security cameras. If you looked at that security camera and you didn't see ghost orbs, there is a possibility that the ghost you're dealing with actually isn't identified with ghost orbs in the first place. I recently had an example of this where I was playing on high school, where we had a gym ghost, and the gym ghost was a wraith, and it wasn't identified with ghost orbs. I checked the security cameras at the beginning, and I didn't see ghost orbs. Finally, we identified the ghost room was the gym, and there were in fact no ghost orbs. So in other words, you can actually use the security cameras to potentially rule out all ghosts that have ghost orbs. Because if you can figure out early on where the ghost room is and whether or not that ghost room is in view of a security camera, you actually don't need to put a video camera on a tripod and haul it into the building and so on and so forth. You can figure it out if your ghost room is in view of the security camera. Moving on, number 2. You should listen carefully for particular sounds that the ghost makes that'll let you know where the ghost is instantly. Ghosts give a lot of hints as to where they are through sounds, so that's actually why playing cooperatively can sometimes be a hindrance to the whole thing. So for this section, I'm going to roll footage of some of the main sounds that will help you figure out where the ghost is, and they're going to appear in an order from really distinct and obvious to the ones that are extremely faint and kind of hard to hear. So let's start. If you don't know where the room is yet, listen for doors opening. Give me a sign. Carol, throw something. Where are you? If you think you're close by, you should listen for footsteps. 12 degrees in here. You friendly. The other thing is, it's a C. Where are you? Perfect. The guy's just spared of both fingerprints, revenant, and footstep. If you're in the near vicinity of the ghost room, you should be able to hear items getting thrown. Do you know where it threw it? First floor? Oh. Ghost Orbs, can you let us know? Are you here? It's freezing. Are you friendly? Where are you?
Behind.
Okay, there's writing and it threw something. So, if you think you're in the room, listen for window knocking. This is really kind of faint, but here are some examples. No fingerprints. Oh. Just knocked on the glass. And finally, on every map, there might be special objects that are only on that map, and you need to listen for those. Especially the cars on the roadhouses, and especially the telephones on high school, and cell doors on prison. That's just... Oh, God. Oh, that was... Okay. Are you friendly? Where are you? Oh, it moved. Goodness. Okay, in the world. What? A lot of the sounds we covered earlier are good for finding the ghost room, but they're also helpful in determining whether or not your ghost is characterized by leaving fingerprints. So going off of the section just before this, when you hear particular sounds during an investigation, make sure to follow up on that sound. Some of the best examples of this are the doors opening and closing and window knocking. So in this section, we're just gonna go over where fingerprints can occur, just in case. So let's first get on record what fingerprints on doors look like. When the ghost interacts with a door, you should check the door for fingerprints. Fingerprints on doors are very common. Make sure to check the doors for fingerprints. Are you angry? I think it's a basement breaker. He touched a door. He touched a door somewhere. I believe it's the upstairs bedroom. There's fingerprints. Going off of checking doors for fingerprints, on prison, if you hear cell doors open or close, definitely check cell doors for fingerprints. Do you want us to leave? How old are you? Okay, before we leave checking cell doors for fingerprints, I want to just show this picture again. Take a look at this photo. I did not even realize that this type of fingerprint existed, and I was dealing with a situation where we had the two pieces of evidence, but we couldn't find the last one, and it was actually fingerprints, and it was really tiny and small. So, anyway, If your ghost is in cell block A or B and you're looking for fingerprints, consider looking for these particular fingerprints. These are really small, but it's a good thing to have that on record. Another very common one are light switches. Light switch fingerprints can actually be pretty small, and sometimes they can be hard to see just because they're really small, or maybe because of the contrast. You might have the room light on and the UV light shining on the light switch, but just if the ghost turns off the light, definitely check the light switch to see if the ghost left fingerprints during that interaction. Give me a sign. Windows are another common location for fingerprints. If you hear the ghost knock on a window, check the window for fingerprints. Even on asylums' boarded windows, you can actually have fingerprints. Some people didn't believe me here, but here are some photos of what that looks like. One last fingerprint location that I'm aware of is closet doors on roadhouses. They actually have the possibility of fingerprints. These are about the same size as the one found on the door, so they're hard to miss. But here's a cool example of when we got dual closet door fingerprints.
That was an accident.
Dude, look, double handprints on the closet doors. Look, double handprints. Holy crap.
Where? Show.
Number 4, you don't need to bring a flashlight and or thermometer into the building. This is a pretty subjective point, but I think that it can actually help you speed up your investigations. So just try not to use a flashlight on small or medium maps, or even on Asylum. Sometimes Asylum is pretty large that I still kind of use a flashlight, but the point is this, that we should know the layout and structure of every map really well. If we've been playing this game a lot, we actually should know it so well that we can hide in rooms, loop the ghost, and do stuff like that without using a flashlight during a hunt. Upstairs. No way. I'm not gonna. It might get me. Also, because you can carry 3 items maximum, and there are a total of 5 or 6 pieces of equipment that can result in you obtaining a unique piece of evidence, depending on whether or not you think the thermometer is necessary for freezing temperatures, you only need a maximum of 2 trips to bring in the thermometer, EMF, spirit box, ghost writing book, the video camera on a tripod, and the UV light. With regards to the thermometer, I think it's also not necessary, especially if you're playing alone and you're mostly using the sounds to tell you where the ghost room is. Also, if you're on the beta build, where now playing on professional actually requires you to turn on the breaker before the temperatures equilibrate, I think that can slow you down. So I think you could find the ghost room faster by listening for sounds and just forgetting a flashlight and thermometer. Just get some other equipment and listen for sounds. Particularly footsteps and door interactions. Anyway, this transitions into my next point, I think. Number 5. It's a good idea to know where the movable objects are on the map, so that in the event that you hear the item thrown sound that we talked about in section 2, you can more easily follow up on what item got thrown. Since we've been playing for a while, we already have a good feeling for what the map looks like and how it's laid out. So just notice if there are any objects that are not in their original places. Some of the most obvious objects that are usually moved by the ghost are bottles and beer cans on the farmhouse maps, cups, plates, silverware, and even electronics on the roadhouse maps, like the laptop and phones. Spray paint cans also exist on all maps, even on Asylum, even though objects are really sparse on Asylum. Listening for objects getting thrown can help out a lot for determining where the ghost room is. And another thing it's good for is if you suspect your ghost is a poltergeist, you can figure out how many items have been thrown and kind of calculate your sanity drop based on that. Number 6, reading the activity graph. I was debating putting this part in about reading the graph because it's actually changing all the time, and the developer is making constant changes to it. And I guess the best way to present this is to actually describe a bit of the history of the graph and how it's evolved. So this part's going to have a lot of words, so just be prepared. To first understand how to read the graph, you have to quickly lay out a well-known mechanic of the game. In case you don't know, we're going to go over this quickly. There are 5 different readings you can get on the EMF reader. EMF 1 is the base reading. EMF 2 corresponds to a general ghost interaction, an interaction with some object. EMF 3 corresponds to the ghost throwing an object. EMF 4 corresponds to a ghost manifestation, or a ghost event. And EMF 5 will only appear with some probability during any ghost interaction if the ghost is identified with EMF 5. It's important to note, EMF 5 will never appear if your ghost is not identified with EMF 5. Throw something. Throw something. So now that we have those on record, we have to establish that the activity chart actually corresponds directly to the values that appear on the EMF reader. Really quickly, here's what an EMF 2 on the reader corresponds to on the activity chart. It goes up 1 unit because, remember, it's using EMF 1 as the base. Here's an EMF 3 event. Here's an EMF 4 event. Here's an EMF 5 event. Okay, but hold on for a second. We actually have a problem. As covered in many existing videos on YouTube, we know that the graph has a, quote, time to update of 1 second. So this actually allows for the possibility of multiple EMF events to occur within that time interval, and as a result, they will show up on the graph as a single event. In other words, the graph is actually displaying the sum of all EMF events in the building. This means that there is a possibility that the EMF spike we saw earlier is actually the sum of 2 or more lower level EMF events. So how are we supposed to read the graph if we can't decode the spikes, the increases? One of the best ways to solve this problem is to actually look at when that EMF event ends on the graph. As we saw in the clips earlier, the EMF reader eventually goes back to its base value of 1 when the EMF, quote, EMF event ends after some duration. So your best bet at reading the graph is to identify when the given EMF event ends. So we're quickly going to do this. We're going to read the next block of activity. We see it goes from 0 to 2, which is an EMF 3 event. Then it goes from 2 to 6, which is an EMF 5 event. Remember, it's an increase of 4, so EMF 5 on the reader. But then it drops from 6 to 4. What that actually is it's the EMF 3 event that started at the beginning, ending at that drop. And then it goes on for a while, and then it drops from 4 back to 0. So the EMF 5 event has ended there. Now, you're correct in saying that you could actually have two low-level EMF events occurring and ending at the same time, which would again appear as some single high-level EMF block on the graph. So what you have to keep in mind is that if you see this large spike, any spike that goes straight up more than 4 EMF units, so to speak, it means it's compounding more than one EMF event. Unfortunately, when that happens, when they directly overlap, begin at the same time, and end at the same time, it's pretty much inconclusive. We can't really derive any information from that. Now, why did we spend so much time talking about all that stuff? The reason is because it actually does play into the way that we read EMF5 nowadays. But we still need to talk a little bit more about the history, so let's keep going. Originally, back when the game had just come out, we used to be able to simply look at the graph and see if there were any increases of 4 activity, quote, units on it. And if there were, we'd be able to correctly assume that the ghost was an EMF5 ghost. We had also established the common appearance of a, quote, EMF5 block that would appear on the graph if your ghost was identified with EMF5. So it would be a singular isolated block where ghost activity would go up from 0 to 4, stay there for about 15 to 20 seconds, and then go straight back down. Then, the behavior of the activity graph was changed because the developer thought it was too easy to read and rendered the EMF reader useless. If you could just read EMF5 off the chart easily, there was no point in bringing the EMF reader inside to the building. So he added a, quote, estimated value on top of the chart. It looked a little bit like this, but it wasn't long before we figured out that this estimated value was just some random value, either 0 or -1, tacked onto the true value of the EMF. In fact, it kind of looked like the EMF5 block would still show up, it would just have noise on top of it. So now, and here's the point where reading the graph actually becomes important, because the beta branch will one day become the stable branch, I think pretty soon, the developer made one more change to the activity graph, which prevents EMF5 from being easily read off of it. I just have to quickly say that Insim's video on reading the graph now with this most recent update is incredibly helpful, and in fact he laid it out in a comment if you want to read that, and this is the important comment. This is going to be what we depend on if we want to read EMF5 off of the graph as advanced players. The important part is here. It says, the activity chart actually shows every EMF event with a random 0 or -1 value added to the true value. Now, does it mean that we can no longer hang our hats on counting activity differences of 4 to indicate that an EMF5 event has occurred? No, it doesn't, but we do need to be careful. It seems now that any reading on the activity chart, even a reading as low as EMF2, could show up as actually one whole unit lower than it actually is. So how do we solve this problem? It's actually explained in Insim's video, and we have to play it very strategically. Our plan to figure out if we can read EMF5 off the board is this. We first have to get the ghost to do something inside the house. It is very preferable that this ghost interaction result in an EMF2 or EMF3 event. Why is that preferable? It's because our next step is to return to the van once we get that event and compare the activity increase with what we would have expected it to be. For example, here I'm on Grafton Farmhouse and a revenant turns off the lights in the bathroom, so we know from the game mechanics that a ghost turning off the lights is expected to be an EMF2 event, but I use the reader to confirm it's an EMF5 event. So then I go back to the truck to look at the graph, and sure enough, it was registered as an EMF5 event. We know that ghost turning off the lights will result in an EMF2 event on the reader. That is game mechanics, pure game mechanics. This is all to say that if we didn't have the reader in that scenario, we would have to conclude that if we saw the lights turn off, go back to the truck and see that that event was registered as not an EMF2 spike. Then we would know we have EMF5. So let's finish up here. Let's summarize. Put succinctly, Insim says TLDR, if you see a high spike for a minor event, you know it's probably EMF5. This will remain true on the next patches to come. Essentially, this is a process of elimination. Light switching, doors opening, phones ringing, turning on faucets, window knocking, all should produce EMF2, and throwing items should produce EMF3. If you witness these events that produce EMF2 or 3, go back to the truck, isolate the activity increase from that event, and see if it increased more than what it should have. One very last comment before we move on. Insim's comment again is really important to read. He says that actually he had a conversation with DK, who is the developer of Phasmophobia. So this guy, he's in direct communication with the developer. And the developer claims that in the future, he will further obfuscate the activity graph by making the random value be between -1 and 1, like +1. So in light of this anticipated update, we don't really need to change our strategy for determining EMF5 too much, but what we need to be wary of is EMF3 events occurring inside the building and appearing as EMF4 events on the graph. So why is this important? It's because we know that EMF4 events on the graph could look like EMF5 events that were taken down one whole unit. So we really need to listen for and know and recognize when EMF2 events occur inside the building. To finally wrap up this section, we can conclude by saying it is still possible and it will still be possible to read EMF5 off the graph, but you have to make sure you know what the EMF2 events are and when they occur inside the house so you can go back to the truck to check it out. That is how we will continue to do those challenges that we all like evidence elimination and, so on and so forth. If you got this far, I do applaud you. Thank you for continuing to watch. So let's move on. Number 7. Finally, we have to talk about the process of elimination in this game. As we all know, some combination of 3 pieces of evidence uniquely determines the ghost type. Now, sometimes getting these pieces of evidence can be a pain. If you end up in a situation where you're not getting the evidence you need because you're dealing with an obstinate ghost, you should consider that in the same way that 3 pieces of evidence determines a ghost type is also characterized by a lack of 3 pieces of evidence. So when we look at the table with ghost type and evidence, we see that the cells with boxes in them indicate that a particular ghost type corresponds to that piece of evidence. It also corresponds to the empty cells. So an example of this would be that the Ure is characterized by freezing temperatures, ghost rating, and ghost orbs. But it's also characterized by not being an EMF5 ghost, not spirit box, and not fingerprints. So this can actually help tremendously. If you know your ghost has been touching doors and knocking on windows but leaves no fingerprints, then you might be able to pretend for a second that your ghost isn't actually a quote fingerprints ghost. Similarly, if you have a ghost that steps right next to you and you hear footsteps but it's not responding to your spirit box, you might want to pretend for a moment that your ghost isn't a spirit box ghost. So I want to do a quick example of what this looks like. Here I'm playing on Tanglewood. I go in with the spirit box, the UV light, and the ghost writing book. So the ghost has opened this door. I did not open this door. You can clearly see the ghost has tampered with it. I'm looking for fingerprints on both sides of the door and the light switch, and I don't see any. So maybe it's not a fingerprints ghost. I do more stuff, and, obviously the lights are on with the spirit box, but it's okay. Anyway, I'm looking at the graph now. This looks like it's maybe an EMF5 block, so I'll keep that in the back of my mind. So now we know, not fingerprints, EMF5. That's what we are thinking now. Now I'm going to go back, see if we can get any more pieces of actual evidence. Where are you? How old are you? So let's quickly go over what we know. We're going to use the 6 pieces of evidence and figure out what we know and what we can guess on. When it comes to EMF5, we did see what looked like an EMF5 block. So we're going to color this checkmark purple for where we don't really know, but we're going to assume it is EMF5. It's not freezing in the ghost room, so we can rule out freezing ghosts. The ghost has not written in the book yet. We're going to say it's not writing. We do have the spirit box, and that's green because that's positive evidence. Ghost orbs, we have absolutely no idea. We can't even make a guess. The last piece, fingerprints, we did check that door and the light switch. No fingerprints. Now that we have all of our kind of guess laid out like this, we can begin to make an educated guess as to what the ghost is. The ghost that corresponds with not freezing, not writing, and not fingerprints is a djinn. Djinns are also correlated with spirit box, and we have spirit box. Also EMF5. Now, we might have seen EMF spike. We don't actually know. We can't confirm that without the reader. But we're going to pretend it is EMF5. That's why it's a purple check. It's like we're assuming that it is. In which case, and we don't know ghost orbs, but in this case, we could pretty much guess, make a really good educated guess that this might be a djinn. Now, again, this is how the technique works. It's pretty guessy. But let's keep going with the rest of the run, and we'll see how it turns out. And remember, another part of elimination is also just narrowing things down in general. We have the spirit box. It's not freezing, which already narrows it down to a djinn, an oni, poltergeist, and spirit. But we're saying it's not going to be fingerprints, which actually leaves us with 2 options, a djinn or an oni. And the cool thing about this is that we only have one piece of, quote, positive evidence, which is the spirit box, and we already have it down to 2 ghosts. So now we're on Bleasdale. We have a very easy breaker under the stairs. I'm going to go in there with the UV, the book, and the spirit box. Now, on this run, it takes me a little while to find the ghost room, so I just speed through that. Then I find it. It's in this kitchen dining room area. Now, this is actually pretty good. I put the book down.
Where are you?
And now I'm trying the spirit box.
Are you friendly?
And I'm not getting anything. The dining room actually has, I think, 4 whole windows and a lot of light switches. So I check the surrounding area too. No fingerprints on the doors or the windows. And we confirm it's freezing. So already, we're kind of starting to build a hypothesis. Our hypothesis is that it's a freezing ghost, but there are no fingerprints, no spirit box, and no ghost writing. So already, our evidence kind of is mounting, as you can see.
Where are you?
So really quickly, I go back to the truck, and I look at the graph, and I see what I think might be an EMF5 spike, and then I make my guess.
Is it a phantom? Wait, no fingerprints. No writing, no spirit box.
So now, again, let's do this. Now we think it's EMF5. We're guessing that it is. We know it's freezing. We have not seen fingerprints. We have not confirmed the ghost writing, and we have not confirmed spirit box. So what does that leave us with? That leaves us with a phantom, as I said in the truck. So that's our guess. Now, is it a phantom? So this game actually lasts quite a while, so I'm just speeding right through this. I might actually cut it a little bit, but take my word that it's the same game. I'm not doing anything like cheating or anything. And as we see, it was a phantom. Let's do one more, and in this last one, we're going to go even faster. So I'm playing with 2 other friends on Grafton Farmhouse, and we find the ghost room after Maria throws something and rings a phone. To the right, furthest right. We just got his phone ring on the first floor.
Doorbell's ringing. Doorbell's ringing.
No problem.
Oh,
It's really cold in this room. It's like 1 degree.
My friend says it's really cold in the room, and I'm looking around for fingerprints. Now the next part of the clip, I'm going to just run, and we'll see if you can guess the ghost type. The next couple seconds are pretty important.
That's where the bedroom
are you
is.
here? Are you here?
Yep, she's doing
Reply
spirit
to
box
me.
right now.
Dude, it's like Maria Thomas.
It's freezing. It is freezing in the room, by the way.
Are you here?
Alright, now you get to guess what the ghost type is. I'll give you 10 seconds. Okay, so the way I looked at this was that we know it's a freezing ghost. Also, my friend was in the room doing the spirit box for a while, and she wasn't getting anything. And I was checking the window for fingerprints, and I didn't see any fingerprints. And the last thing was that we had a ghostwriting book on the floor, and it did not write in the ghostwriting book. So all of that adds up to a phantom, which is our hypothesis, which is freezing, but it's not spirit box, not writing, and not fingerprints. So we're going to have to look for EMF5 and ghost orbs.
Can you look a little more to the left?
Are you here?
I think that is a ghost orb. Yeah, there is a ghost orb for sure. There is a ghost orb for sure.
Yes. That's 2.
Oh.
EMF5 over
I
here.
did it
It's
wrong.
EMF5 right here.
Alright. Give a 5.
It's a phantom.
Yes, it is.
Phantom.
La 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 la.
Alright, so I realized.
So anyway, those are my 7 tips / strategies for like doing more, quote, targeted investigations in Phasmophobia. If you found any of that helpful, and if you managed to, you know, get any of that crap, especially the graph explanation, then I really do appreciate you taking the time to listen and watch the video. I wish I could go on further, and I would love to elaborate on some of these things even more. But actually, my Adobe license is expiring in 1 day, so I got to get this video out. Anyway, if you enjoyed that, thank you very much for watching, and have a good rest of your day. Take care.